welcome to Bump Love. So in case you missed it, our girl here was featured on the BBC's She Word program back in June. Hey! What took her to the program, you ask? She was talking about her egg donor experience.
According to World Health Organization, 186 million people are affected by infertility globally. Pumla, the mother to the 12-year-old boy, has since donated a total of 51 eggs. But this process, she says, comes at a cost.
The pain is more psychological. Then in the last 2 weeks, because your tummy is so swollen and it's become quite hard, then now that's actually like kind of a real pain, like a physical pain.
Pumla shocked us on a previous episode of Bump Love by revealing that she has donated her eggs. Now, the reason we are shocked is Pumla loves herself. So for her to do this selfless thing, we're all like, I'm sorry, what? How many eggs? What? Wow. So anyway, because we are nosy and we want to hear all the details, we decided she is going to tell us about this experience. So welcome to Story Time with Pumla! So now that I need to call you by your surname because this was just a bit much. What prompted you or inspired you to donate your eggs?
Like, what were you thinking?
What were you thinking?
Like, all of us were menstruating, you know? And you are like, no, these eggs, like...
Well, let me start from the end of it. First of all, yes, I really like my life. But I find myself also, I feel like I was raised in an Ubuntu where it's an African thing, right? Yeah. Ubuntu, I am because we are. Yeah. So if I can do something for somebody else and it doesn't really take a lot away from me, then why not, right? Yeah. So it's like it's just a sense, I think, of African community. Yeah. And the decision really came. So let me start from the beginning. It was mostly about the fact that there's something I could do for somebody that could impact them so much and yet took nothing away from me. Yeah. So I'll start from the beginning. So I got a scholarship to go and do my master's in Manchester. Everything happened at a time when I feel honestly like the larger part of this story comes from I was meant to be in the right place at the right time to help these people. Yeah. So when I went to school, I had tried, in a previous episode, remember, I shared about how I tried to do a tube mitigation, to have my tubes tied. Yeah. And year after year, gynecologists refused me to have, and it was a whole patriarchal thing that I needed to consult a husband I did not have to make a decision for me about my own body, right? Yeah. So when I went to the UK, I was like, I started doing some research. I was like, before I leave this country, I must, they will tie these tubes. So I'm there, please not in my first semester. We are in good time, we are books upon books, we get a break. Then it just kept coming back that, you know what, I need to have this thing done before I leave. So I started to do the research, then I found a GP, they call them those general practitioners near me. Yeah. And then I went to him and then he referred me and said, we have actually a fertility center just across the road. Okay. So I went to the fertility center and I decided, I sat down, there were so many people there and I decided, now I'm in the zone. But as I sat, we were in the waiting room, there were two ladies of they spoke with African accents, but I would say maybe West Africa. Yeah. And they were speaking about how they had been going through so many IVF cycles, doing so many treatments and the real problem here was that they had reached a point of doing getting an egg donor. They were open to it. But the strange thing is that abroad, it's mostly Caucasian, people of Caucasian descent who donate their eggs. Yeah, so Africans don't really. And the ones that do that look more like us are like from the Caribbean. But these were real African women who said, and let's be honest, we all want our children to look like us. Yeah. Yes, even when, so we all are open to let's adopt somebody, an Asian, and yet you're black, but inside you want a mini you who is similar to you. So they were really there. So when I had the conversation, to me, I'm just there tapping a little bit. And I could feel like it was like heartbreaking just to hear them speak about their journey. And now for me, I was like, okay,
tie
me, I
my
want to
tie.
tie.
I'm done.
I want to tie, I'm done. These ones have been struggling for maybe over 10 years. These are women like who are talking from, and because they're African, they can't really express themselves in our society. Because just infertility, that's not an African problem. We have poverty, we have corruption, we have tribal conflict, we have poor governance, infertility. Like I could see that it was, and yet like the Caucasian women, when they would speak, it was like such free conversation. For them, it was like they were talking about a normal thing. They were exchanging numbers, even with people they didn't know. They have support groups about it. So it's just listening into that conversation. And I like every time I think about those women, I feel that the real reason I went to study in that place was to help those women. That's the real bigger part of the story, like honestly. And it's just in that moment when I entered to speak to the gynecologist, I didn't even ask about my tubes. I just asked. I've been listening in, and I've been told that you have a deficiency of African eggs, and if it's something you think I can do, then I would like to know more about it. And the guy was so excited. She showed me, like she said, we have a list of people who have women who some of them we just convinced them to use eggs of other descents, but you can see that there's that, and I have a waiting list here. People who have refused to get off until they get women who can donate eggs of black descent. So I was like, just small. So I said, let me do one trial. Then maybe I'll come, let me see what happens. And then I might come back for the other thing that I wanted. Yeah. So my real inspiration, honestly, was just overhearing a conversation.
Wow.
And my heart just reaching out. Because I couldn't understand what it would feel like of somebody who wanted a child and couldn't have one.
Wow.
Like what
You say it doesn't take away from you, but I feel like it's so sacrificial what you did.
Yeah.
So it only came to me after we hosted Patricia.
Yeah.
And I feel that maybe that's why I said it then, because I
Yeah.
didn't understand the magnitude
Yeah.
until she spoke.
Yeah.
And I literally felt like my heart bleed. Like I didn't realize what I was doing.
Yeah.
I think for me it was just a thing. Like I mean,
Yeah.
every month I go through a menstrual cycle. These
Yeah.
things come out. So if somebody can decide to just take give them away if they can sell it. My money was like, here.
Many. So really, why are you keeping them?
Why are you keeping them?
I know.
So,
No, let me tell you something interesting. You know, after we did that episode, for those of you that missed that episode, we'll leave a link in the description box.
Yeah.
But when you did that episode, I actually asked a lady who works in I was like, so this thing of egg donation, you mean here we can donate eggs? Because like you said, to be honest, to a certain extent, we have in abundance. And so maybe God, I don't think God thought would have 6,000 babies. You know what I mean? So why did he give us that many?
yeah.
So anyway, I was asking her, and then she told me, so unfortunately, madam, you are old now. I'm like, what do you mean? And so now she started to try to explain to me the process and why they need young eggs of of younger girls. So I would like you to share with us the process.
Yes, yeah. So when I left her the office, she took me through what was expected of me. So she told me they do a series of tests. So the first, of course, she asked me, how old are you? I was 27 at the time. I was 27. And she said, oh, yeah, that's their age, their maximum is 34. So they said, we take like up to 34, but the tests will decide. Like, so what that thing is about the younger ones is because, remember, these are women struggling with infertility. So they need the best of the best. So by the time you go through, so the cycle, so what really happens is that, so let's start from the beginning. The tests. You do like blood work tests. You do you know, like, so I'm not sure here. Okay, I've had conversations with fertility doctors here as well, but abroad. So they do the test they do is mostly like blood work and hormonal work as well to make sure like your hormonal levels, so they are balanced. There are people who are not okay, and they don't want to pass on those problems to other people's children, and even for you, like the process of of the egg, the cycle of the whole process, it can take a toll on you. So you've got to be able to manage that, balance it out. So there's a series of tests. And the guy called me back the next day and said, Pumla, good to go. When can you come in? So I can start over the weekend. I have class here, but we can start over the weekend, Friday. So she said, all right. I went in. Oh my God, now.
Process.
So I feel like this process would have gone easier for somebody who doesn't fear injections. It's so hard to believe. I am so afraid of needles.
Yes, you do.
Like, there are two things I fear in this world, needles and a praying mantis. Yeah, Kongola mabere and needles. In my life, those are my greatest fears in the whole world. So when she showed me, like, and then there's a stack. So she's here. Normally, like, it's a normal conversation. There is a pack of 30 needles. So you start off 30. They're actually 60 for the man. They tell you, you have to inject yourself twice a day in the stomach. We can help you out in the first week, but I can show you today. It's just that some people are afraid, but I can show you and you can do it for yourself. So the first time, like, she injects me in the stomach, I'm like, oh my God, shit. Like, what did I just sign up for? But you see, like, I just kept speaking to myself. Like, the conversation that I'd had in the waiting room the other day just kept repeating, coming back. I'm like, Pumla, just small injection. What about the other person who is a lifetime of heart and, and heartache? So I just kept doing it. So you have to inject yourself in your stomach, so it's hormonal. And so what this does is, like, it increases the number of the eggs. So it's like you go through a whole IVF cycle. And why I like this is because the woman you're donating these eggs to is also going to go through the same. So it's like, you're working, it's like you're doing the same thing, right? So like, it's like we're on this journey together. I don't know who you are. I don't know when you're going to do it, but I've done my part for you and you're going to do exactly the same thing or at whatever date in your time. So it's painful towards the end. If you don't like injections, there's that initial problem. Then towards the end, like 2 weeks, so you do it for a month for every cycle. And the last maybe 10 days, because the eggs are so swollen, your stomach's so hard. Now, even to get that injection through, like, you sit and first think about it. Remember, I was in school, I was studying, I'm about my good life. I couldn't go out anymore because now I had some of it here. Then I couldn't drink properly at the time.
How many months, like how many cycles?
In a month,
one
cycle.
Like how many cycles?
No, it's just one. So it depends on how many times you want to do it. Yeah, so I did 2.
You did 2?
Yeah, so I did 2 cycles, and so each cycle is 1 month.
I want to know how you went back after this pain to the second one. So first finish this process. First finish this.
Oh my God.
Now
you couldn't go out already.
I couldn't do
You
anything.
couldn't
I was
drink.
reading. I couldn't drink. My life really came to a standstill. And then there was a lot of anxiety about that whole, like, remembering I have an injection the next day. When is this ending? But what was really guiding me along is whenever I would go, so every 3 days, you go back to the fertility center for a check-in. And you guys, I must tell you why infertility is not an African problem. In their history, they had never, ever been with anybody who had so many eggs just there, like lying around. Like, most people who came for these were mostly people who, like, they have really nothing to lose. They have nothing over. So when you go for fertility, they kind of give you it's like a transport allowance. So most of the people who go are, I don't want to call them like, they need money. They are desperate. So they are desperate. They are abusing. They are using substances maybe many times. They don't fulfill, like, the real obligation of the whole thing. So by the time they go back for these checks, you have, like, maybe there are few eggs and they're not viable. And also because they're mostly Caucasian, already in, like, they have fewer eggs than me. Like, there was so the last time when I went for my last check-in, like, it was such a thing. It was like those things where you'd go to America, like to white communities, and the white people are touching your black skin. Like, I literally felt like I was a specimen. Like the guys would come, like, every time I came, more guys would come into the room. Every time I came in, it was such an issue of what? And many of these people who come maybe were like 22, 23, and me, I'm like 28. I'm like closing over to the other side. and yet still. So each time I gave, the first time I gave, I think 24 eggs, and then the second time I think was 27 eggs.
What?
About, yeah. So it was like, oh my God, oh my God. So that process ends like the 30th day. The guy tells you, we are good. Tomorrow, please come. It's an outpatient procedure.
Okay.
You come, you go under for about an hour. We harvest, we extract the eggs. Go, you have a bed to just lie down a bit and go home.
That's it.
I called my Ugandan friend who was studying in the university as well. And I just said, you know what, I'm going through this. Tomorrow, please not. Nobody knew what I had been going through like the whole time. I hadn't said anything to anyone until the day I needed. I wasn't sure. But if something happens, I'm going under. What if I don't wake up? Then these people, they may harvest other ones and dump me somewhere. And then my parents will come asking, what happened? What happened? So I called a friend of mine, it's called Samuel Edward. And he decided, he told me, no, it's all right. I'll come and be there the entire time and take you home afterwards. But the lady of you guys, those guys of outside countries are tough. They said, you don't even need to be taken. You can just walk, like after the procedure. Like nobody's, that thing of, Banage, let them bring for me now some bougie. Banage, the mother-in-law comes in. The mother, bring a flask of tea, bring the yenda. Banage, she's the patient, she's what? No, they even the person I called, they said, that person is not necessary. But I just did it for my own security. So we went in, I lay down, and are you good? Count to 10.
Then you
done.
I was out. I woke up and I was feeling so like groggy, so like a real surgery. But I felt fine. I was like, did everything go all right? Like, Pumla successfully harvested 24 eggs. This is amazing. Please keep it. They really pumped me. Or I was like, Kale, it's done, right? I'm okay. I'm done. They made So there's after that, they give you like a paper. They ask you if you want to write a note to the children, telling them about yourself. Please note, they ask you for a CV, if you have one. So that in the event that the children will ever want to know, they know where they came from, like the type of person that they actually came from. So that in case of anything, when you see your child, you and Brian, when you see a certain trait in Bianca, there's a thing it does to you when you know where that trait comes from. So it's one of those things of a child might behave a certain way and nobody understands them. And yet if they read something or hear or see something in another person that they can recognize as themselves, maybe it will give them some some closure, right? So now picture me who writes. Whoa, because that child is going to cry. I wrote about my family, who we are, where we come from, what we love, who like the real all those longer things. My friend, I wrote like totally everything, what I stand for, what I believe in, where my values come. All like whatever I'm telling you here, I wrote down what inspired me to do this. I hope they are being raised in a good home. Like my wishes for them. Like I literally conferred like blessings upon them, whoever they are, if they're there somewhere. And that's what made me go back. I think it's the when I wrote, it felt so real. It made so much more sense. So when they called me, please note, it's not like I volunteered myself to go back. They called me back.
Those are the eggs.
And asked.
You were such a phenomenon.
The eggs were on.
We were like
she already had eggs and then she added.
So I just went back. I think it's that writing. When they called me, they asked, Pumla, if you have another month that you can spare for us.
Wow. And I said, there must have been many people. Many
and that is it. The demand is so high. And if you're able, why not? So if anything, that was the time now I really wanted to go and have like the tubal ligation, but it didn't make sense now. At the time. It was like, it's all right, let me do another cycle. And I did another cycle, went exactly the same way.
Have any of your children reached out?
Wow.
They are.
Eggs reached out.
So the law only allows the child to reach out with the parent's consent until they are 18 years old. At 18, if a child demands to know something, they should be allowed. So that's why I have to write that note, put in my CV. So they keep that in a file and keep it with the fertility center. so that if at all the child ever feels, but this child has to be the age of 18. Right
Yeah,
now,
so
my
you have, like,
my
some
children
10
are
years.
10. Yeah.
Like
this was
Teja, after Teja is 13.
Yeah,
So
it's
we have
about
some
10 years.
some
Yeah,
good-
it's actually 10. So I have another like good 8 years. So this I did like 10
first
years
be
ago.
younger, you have
Yeah.
one child.
Yeah, but I would
Soon.
really, really hope, honestly,
That
that
one day they-
that one day somebody does reach out. Yeah, I feel I would it would do that
It would
sense of
complete
purpose. It
the-
would complete
the-
this
the
cycle.
cycle, yes.
Yeah,
I
like
get
I feel I'm at a point where what was the reason? And now it has been
why,
fulfilled.
yes.
Wow.
You know, like that whole sense of community and sense of purpose, and seeing that, like that, not just the child, but also the mother and the father of the child. I wish it could happen. Like
Yeah.
it's
We
not
wish
something
that
I think
for you.
about, but when people bring this up, I'm like, I'm sure I have children elsewhere. I'm not a child of one, dear.
Yeah, no, you're not. No,
I have
you're
other
not.
children. I have other children.
No
I'm
wonder
there
you don't
somewhere.
want more children.
Right?
You want to give because she knows. She's like, one
She's like,
day,
my uterus
you'll
is
be
closed.
there. One day I'll be
Kumbe, she has more children than
All
us.
of us. She'll be
Hopefully.
50 and people are
Hopefully.
coming to Uganda
Hopefully.
looking for
Looking
her.
Hopefully.
I shall be there for the
I
party.
feel like not many people know about this.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything to say on that, or I don't know. Like I feel like more girls or
If
more
I knew,
women
I
can
think
do
I would.
better.
You would.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
if
I
we
think
knew.
it's just because, please note, I had to leave this continent
Oh,
to
yeah.
find
Find
out.
out,
I had no
yeah.
idea.
Oh, yeah.
And then when this happened, when we hosted the fertility doctor,
Yeah.
Dr. Kafuma,
Yes.
I had a conversation with him.
Okay.
I went to Women's Hospital, we had a conversation, and I asked, and he actually, even now, so I just have not gone back, but
Yeah.
I asked him about it, and I said, hey, Pumla, okay, you might be 30 there.
Yeah.
But what we do, because of that thing that we know that African women are more fertile. So you might be 38 or 9 or, 10, or 40 and yet still be much more fertile than a 20-year-old. So we do the tests. All we need to do is run the tests. And if we run the tests and we find that, oh, you have at least a good 12, 13, 14, 15 eggs, then we
they
can
do the
you
interventions
can do
to sort
the
of boost.
exactly.
Yeah, an interest.
But here, so I asked him, why don't you talk
About
about
it,
it?
yes.
And he didn't.
There's no demand.
There is, but no, there is. So I think Africans have an issue with what I
Egg
said,
donation, yes.
with the egg donation. They feel,
Yeah.
and it's not really the woman, it's the man.
Ah, yes.
The men,
Sort of not-
yeah, that's not my child.
It's not my child.
It's the same way that you can bring up adoption. For them, in their minds, it's exactly like adoption. Africans are very hesitant to adopt. They don't, they don't. For them, they want to do it the right way, and that is because infertility is not an African problem. So it's all that, and he says it takes so much more time, because like we have people here who come through, and we speak about it, but the number of people that has done it, he said, even if I tell you the number, you will even laugh, because the number of people struggling versus the ones who are agreeing to egg donation, if anything, they're the ones who are coming from abroad and are doing it here, but not the ones living here. And I'll tell you something, I have a cousin who actually reached out to me to have this done for her. She's been struggling for 10 years in a marriage without a child. And I said, fine. And then I called Dr. Kafuma, Women's Hospital. We arranged, did everything. And then he said, she's your relative. And I said, yeah, they were cousins. And then he said, we don't recommend.
Really?
Yeah,
I
that
thought
the
that
children
would
are
be
so that there's an issue, a whole bonding issue. I don't know if it's a morality thing where your niece is your child. And then there's a bigger temptation to speak to the child. If you recognize, if you have, it's
You
too
feel like
close
it
to
will
home,
be your-
that will be your
I
child.
feel
You might
you.
even find a place where you're disciplining that child
Yeah,
because that's your
because you're
child.
like,
Yeah,
that's
there's
my
a
child.
line, there's a line that a barrier that you can cross so quickly. So he says we don't recommend it. Yeah, he will say that we don't. But when I thought about it, it made sense. You imagine now, even right now when we're speaking about it and you ask me, would you want to meet those children? There's a feeling I get. I literally feel like you're asking me about
part of
Teja.
me.
Like I know there's a child out there somewhere that I want to
That
meet.
has your
Now imagine a little Teja walking around in another home.
You know that.
Who I know where they're. So for the other part, the other family, it might be fine. But for me, the donor, I might create an attachment
Yeah.
to this child and may make things get problematic.
Like you want to
Yeah.
visit every other
So you want to
weekend.
visit, you're always in their
You
person.
want to
Can go out, we go here. Then people are like, now you really like that news.
Yes. What
Why?
about people at a wedding?
What happens at
Your
that?
man ngafana na nyo Pumla.
There is also that, you know, it happens.
Yeah.
Be like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, boy,
Yeah.
yeah, kana katika.
Yeah, kafana-
Ngambi kan.
Kafana na nyotesha. I don't know if we
There
are
are
qualified to
those,
answer
right?
this. So your egg in another person's womb means that they will have your features.
Yes.
So, but I thought they get the sperm of the
Yeah,
the
so it's
father.
now I'm the mother.
She's the mother.
She's the mother.
You're just a vessel. You're
a
carrier.
surrogate.
You're like a surrogate.
Ah, got it.
Yeah. So that DNA is mine.
that's
If they ever go, so if you ever go for like what are those, like if matches, let's say if maybe they have one of those diseases or kidney transplant, for
Yeah.
example, you will not match with a mom ever. So that's when, those are the cases where sometimes they actually look for
Have
the
to
egg
look-
donor.
Got it.
Yeah,
That
so
makes sense.
you become a half and half of the donor and the
You will
father.
have children out.
Yeah, they become you, they are your kids.
Yeah, they really.
But somebody else is looking after them. And I feel nature makes you more of a mother.
For sure.
Yeah,
for
than-
sure.
than nature.
So,
That's
so aside from like the pain, what other challenges did you face in the process?
Me, it was just as
was
you
just
said, that good life stopping.
Yeah.
If anything, Okumanya, I'm really fickle because me, that's where my sacrifice was. Not so much in anything else.
Yeah.
It was having to put my life on hold for a bit, my social life
Yeah.
on hold for a bit. And then because everything is scheduled, you have to have like a real tight schedule when you
the
have that for the injections.
Yes.
And yet I have like discussions. Sometimes I'd have to like call the people to have discussions from my place or place of residence because I knew like in the next 40 minutes I have to go to the bathroom, do the
It does
injection,
happen exactly
come
like
out.
IVF.
Yeah, it's exactly like
Exactly.
IVF. Yeah,
Wow.
it is like IVF.
I mean,
But it's
I was in
I'm
awe
so
of you,
blown.
but
Yeah.
I am in awe of you,
Just
Sama.
small things.
Small things you can do for the
Yeah,
world.
small things. And I would encourage women to donate, but mostly I would encourage you to donate if you think that you're done having children, because remember there are risks involved regarding your uterus. Anything can happen. I mean, as long as you're going under surgery, anything can happen. But this, because it's localized, if there's any risks happening, it might be around your uterus or your whatever, and you don't want to regret later that I tried this for somebody else and now I want to have children and I can't have children.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to have children, you're the best people to do egg donation. Or if you have children and you
And
feel
you're done.
I'm done,
Yeah.
so
Go ahead
yeah,
and
go ahead. You can go ahead and donate. But anybody can donate.
Yeah,
Anybody can donate.
anybody, even as the old ones. So I just wanted to ask about the process of the surgery, because I know they must have explained to you. Is it an invasive surgery? Like, how does the surgery
They go through your vagina.
Okay.
They go through the vagina and use a needle-like instrument that goes in, and then they
Pull them out.
pull them out.
Yeah.
And that's it. And
That's it.
Wow. I don't know if you guys have a question that you want to ask Pumla and you're just like, what? She did what? Please drop it in our comment section. That has been Story Time with Pumla. So thank you so much, Pumla, for sharing with us your story. In case you missed that initial revelation, we're going to be sharing past episodes on infertility. Check out the links below, and also where she shared her experience on the BBC She Wad program. Until next time, with love from Bath Love.